Nice, great, cool. I'd say we kick it off. Right up front, I would like to say this is a recorded session. So should you have to leave earlier or anything gets in between, this recording will be available online afterwards. But first of all, I would like to welcome everybody. Thanks for being here today to our first edition, actually, of Founders Talk, the future of automating airport operations. We have two very exciting guests today. More on that in just a moment. We have an exciting topic today. We've seen more and more technologies coming along in the aviation sector over the last decade. Today, we'll be having a bit of a closer look at two organizations that are in this space, Evitaro and Mainblades, and yeah, sharing a little bit of insights on what we're doing at the moment, where we're heading, and where we see the future of automating the airport operations go. We have two concrete use cases, more on that in just a moment. But before that, I would like to give Dejan and Alex the floor to give a short introduction about them, who they are, and what you guys do. So Alex, maybe you want to kick it off, give a bit of an introduction.
Sure, thanks, Michael. My name is Alex. I'm one of the co-founders of Evitaro Technologies. We're based operationally in Hamburg, Germany, and have been working now for almost 3 years on this product that helps aircraft avoid collisions on the ground. And we have a team of 10, and I don't know what else too much more to say, but I'm sure we'll get deeper into it as we go along.
Thanks. Dan, what about you?
Hello, everybody. My name is Dejan Borota. I'm one of the co-founders of Mainblades and currently acting CEO of Mainblades. We're in the famous space of drone aircraft inspections, so aircraft drone inspections. Drone inspections have been a promised feature in the aviation industry since back in 2014. Currently, I don't think there's a lot of them actually operational. We have one drone that is operational in the hangars of KLM, and outside of them, we have several other partnerships we're developing, and we have built a product that at this stage we can develop large data sets of high quality and very consistent data outputs, so inspection outputs of an aircraft, and are currently working with our colleagues through use cases to how make use of this automatically gathered data. And that's today what we're gonna talk to you about.
Thanks. You guys already briefly mentioned a little bit. Some of you might already know a thing or two about Evitaro and Mainblades. Others might not know so much about these two companies. So Alex, if you could just elaborate a little bit on what you guys actually do.
Yeah, sure. So the problem statement came from the FAA, actually. A few years back, Andrew and I learned that collisions of aircraft on the ground, either with other aircraft or infrastructure or vehicles colliding into the aircraft, is a problem that costs the industry billions of dollars a year. And so with a robotics background, we thought, well, why don't we put some sort of sensor in this loop to give the human more awareness of what's going on around them? You know, if you can draw a very simple analogy to the parking sensor you have in your car that beeps at you as you get closer to other objects, parallel parking, for example. And that's sort of the problem statement and where we started with the technology. And we thought LiDAR was a really interesting application in this space because of the geometries and the environment involved. And we started to develop that product. And we entered the market almost a year ago with our first product that gives you collision warnings. And we've been building on it ever since. So it's a little more background. So it's like, basically pushbacks at airports or movements into maintenance facilities, around maintenance facilities, or during the production cycle while they're moving aircraft, are all these different use cases where our collision warning system could be implemented.
Thanks. So actually one of the reasons why we actually chose you guys to join us in this session for today is, of course, we share somewhat similar industry. We both of the companies are operating on the ground of airports, facing challenges that the way the aircraft are handled and maintained. Maybe Dan, you can elaborate a little bit on what Mainblades is doing and where it got to that point where we are today.
Yes, I can. I think aircraft drone inspections speak to the imagination. Everybody can imagine a flying drone around an aircraft taking pictures for inspection purposes. So I'm going to elaborate more about why we should do it. 3 whys. Why drones? Because the current way of inspecting is quite slow and devious. So with drones, you can shorten the maintenance time, shorten the turnaround time. With automated robots, because it's effectively not even a drone, it's an automated robot which we are programming. You have improved inspection data, so your data quality increases a lot, your consistency increases a lot, and that results in reduced maintenance cost. Why you should do it now? Because faster inspections can obviously save money and increase availability of the fleet, and by consistent data output, we can work towards compliant reportings, consistent reportings. And then the third why Mainblades? Well, our technology is solely based around robotics. We do not build the drones ourselves. We only focus on the software, where the software, from a robotics perspective, is capable of inspecting any type of aircraft, large body, wide body, narrow body. Our software stack is also capable of flying both indoor and outdoor, and without clearing any hangar. And we mostly focus on how to extract data, information from the data, and how to have reportings for the users to actually have actionable items in their maintenance programs.
Thank you very much. I mentioned this before in the beginning of the session. I say it again. Should there be in between any questions, any comments, anything you would like to ask the two guys, the experts are here right now. Really, just feel free to just join the conversation. Really, right? So, I really encourage you guys to do that. So, should there be any questions, just shoot. Okay. Cool. All right, so Dan already mentioned it. We've come a long way introducing this technology. Maybe Dan, you can elaborate a little bit on what we've been working on in the last couple of months and some of the milestones we've actually been able to achieve with our partners.
Yes, absolutely. We always like to work in 3, so we'll discuss with you 3 milestones which we've had. In the past 3 months, we've had actually a major presentation's gone.
Yeah, I didn't touch anything. Let me get it back.
Try again. Never mind. I will just continue. So in the last 3 months, we have actually done outdoor demonstrations at major US airports with large carriers. That was very successful. So it was always with the involvement of the respective airport authorities and under the vigilant eye of the FAA. Drone inspections at airport are still a rarity in US airspace, but it is something that is progressing quite well, and we have been happy to be part of those demonstrations. A second thing we've done in the past quarter is actually release new software, and that software is mostly on our web portal. So for those of you who are familiar with our technology, we have an iPad interface which we use to control or set up operations for our drone, and that same iPad interface is used for reporting. But currently, we have also deployed a web portal. That means if anybody with a drone and an iPad does an inspection at location the Netherlands, you can actually instantly view that data from the live web portal anywhere in the world if you have the right access. And that provides a very elaborate way of sharing results and reviewing inspections in a very instant way. The third thing we're very actively working on, and which we've achieved with KLM in the past 3 months, is we've been focusing on the Boeing 787 wing inspections. I think the problem is a worldwide known phenomenon, paint chipping on the inspections of the B787 and the Airbus A350, both composite aircraft. It seemed it was a short problem, but it has been wreaking havoc along the industry now for years. We cannot fix this problem. We're not a paint manufacturer, but what we can do, and what we decided to do in collaboration with KLM, is customize the drone tool to make a very quick and efficient inspection of the wing, to assess paint damages, to assess high-speed tape, and to actually have a very good telling point of when the aircraft should be repainted. So not to have to schedule it out abruptly, but to actually monitor the progress of any damages. And we're actually currently in the process with KLM to certify this method so that anybody having this issue can use it for their benefit.
Thank you very much. Alex, what's the situation with Evitaro? What have you guys been working on lately, and some of the things you're proud about? You see some similarities in the way you approach the market like Mainblades, some similar challenges maybe. Yeah, just give us an idea of what happened to Evitaro in the last couple of months.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is that we've been able to move a bit more freely now internationally, which has been really great for getting the technology out there, which I guess is something Dejan also highlighted. But we also had the pleasure to meet Mainblades in person physically for the first time last year at the MRO Amsterdam, MRO EU in Amsterdam, and that's where we started to collaborate on a deeper level. But yeah, so along with this like expanded travel that we've been able to now take part in is we've gotten a lot more users. So like this last quarter, we signed up a couple of users outside of Europe, even one in North America and one in Asia. And this has been really exciting for us, and the team's been working hard to make sure that these launches are going smoothly. Along with that, we've been working on growing our team, and not just the technical direction, but also some marketing as a result of today's session. And it's very encouraging to see the startup go from 4 people last year to 10 people this year. And yeah, along with the technical progress and launching new customers or new users of our system, we've also now integrated over 20 different aircraft types, so we can support the movement of narrow body, wide bodies, Airbus, Boeings, some helicopters, and also some limited military use cases, moving military aircraft. So that's a little bit about what we've been working on the past 3 months. I think maybe some of you from the industry can also confirm it's been a very busy first quarter of this year, which is positive for all of us in the industry.
So both of you guys mentioned giving demonstrations. What is it like to be an entrepreneur of the aviation tech startup? When you guys travel, what are some of the experiences you guys see in the hangar? How is the technology being perceived by the engineers and by the leadership teams? Just can you share some experiences there? What is it like to bring innovation into aviation, and especially in these circumstances?
Well, yeah, first off, as a aviation sort of enthusiast, it's great to be able to travel, to these interesting locations. I think aviation is a great industry for travel personally. You get to go to some pretty cool places. But yeah, introducing technology into these operations is sometimes challenging, as there's not, what we're working with, a LiDAR here is quite high tech, and moving that into an industry that is adopting technology maybe a little bit slower than other industries, we probably get a different subset of questions. But generally, the perception we face is quite positive. People are excited to see very realistic use cases for technology and how technology can help in the operations. And being an airline industry, having safety and reliability at the top of the bill. Everyone is always asking about how reliable is the system, how safe is the system, and that you can just see that mindset is throughout the entire industry, which of course from the outside but once you start to show and demonstrate technology, that's one of the first things that comes up. I don't know if you guys can relate to that.
It sounds very similar. Yeah, I get greeted usually with a lot of enthusiasm, because usually in the aircraft environment there is a lot of tech heavy guys, but with a healthy dose of criticism and reflection. So how does it work? How do I know it's certified? How do I know? A lot of good technical questions. But overall, I see an improving trend also in terms of people having the bandwidth to actually work on these sort of projects. People having the capacity to put resources into helping young companies bring this product actually to the market, and eager to make sure that the efficiency can be improved in this industry.
Yeah, and just one more point I'll make about that. I think in the industry, we've seen challenges for getting talented, skilled labor to do aircraft maintenance work, for example, which is part of the sub segment we both work in. And maybe the pandemic sort of accelerated the push of the industry's search for technology. And at first when the pandemic came, we thought we were doomed. But as a result, I think we found that they're actually looking more for technology than they were before to solve these problems of labor shortages. Or I mean, it's a global problem. Everyone's facing it right now.
Was it challenging times in terms of business picking up? Was it probably the worst times to launch an innovative product like this? I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, well, luckily we still had some development work to do, so we were able to stay under the radar during 2020. But I can imagine commercialization in that year. We tried a few times, but it was quite difficult with all the uncertainty. Coming out of it, though, I think, more people are open to changing some of the operations or improving some things using technology.
Cool. So we've been looking at the past. So let's move on to what's the focus currently? What are some of the things that we're currently working on? Dan, can you shed some light on what's up with Mainblades at the moment?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, we are on the full rise with the wing inspections, and we're actually undergoing a procedure called certification under Part 145 to use drone as a tool. So we get this question a lot, right? What does the certification roadmap look like for drone inspection as a tool? There's multiple. You can go via FAA EASA approval, which is a lengthy process in which we are generally doing with our partners and customers. You can go to the OEMs directly, so Boeing and Airbus, which is also a good approach because then it's in the once a drone inspection is in the AMM, it's applicable and usable for anybody. But also there's not a lot of speed there as well. We do get the support from Boeing, we do get the contacts with Airbus, but it's a slow process. The third method is actually looking at an MRO itself. An MRO has a Part 145 license to maintain aircraft. As part of that license, they have also the authority to approve alternative tools. And the drone inspection can be regarded as such a tool. And the wing inspection that we have developed together with KLM, we're actually going through the process now to certifying that inspection as a tool, instead of what is currently used as a tool set and inspection methodology. This is a process that has to be done separately with anybody who has an MRO and Part 145. But now that we have the roadmap for that, it's actually quite easy and quick to go through. Second thing that we're doing, I'm not sure if everybody's fully aware, but Mainblades is a technology development company, and we provide the technology. So eventually our model is to provide the drone and the software to be used by mechanics, aircraft engineers to perform inspections. So we're currently in the process of training hangar personnel, aircraft mechanics to use our tools. This is not a 10-week training. It's actually a drone permit, which is usually from the local authorities. And then there's a Mainblade course, how to use our software. It's quite easy. The third thing we're doing is more on the technical side, is we're actually releasing machine learning and artificial intelligence software improvements almost every month, which cuts down the inspection time. You have to review the photos. So currently for a wide body, we take about 500-600 pictures. For a narrow body, about 300 images. You still need to check these images for anything that the software indicates to you. But we're actually slicing down that review time from 3 minutes a couple of months ago, and now under 1 minute, and it's going quicker and quicker all the time. So that has 3 interesting developments that are currently ongoing.
Thanks, Alex. What's the situation with Evitaro at the moment? What are some of the exciting things you guys are working on?
Yeah, so one of the things that we brought into the product functionality this year was that the system. So let me take one step back. Our system is portable and temporarily installed. So it's a standalone unit that has LiDAR on top and a computer and a battery, and so it attaches to the asset you'd like to move. And now we can support movements based on the tug machine. So we had originally started on aircraft, because it's technically a little easier, but operationally not so nice. So we've heard that feedback, and now the system is being used on tug-based movements. So anything from the smallest little remote control electro tugs all the way up to the largest wide body diesel or electric based towers. Our system can then be basically put on top of that tug and then be used for aircraft movements. And we think that'll unlock a much bigger user set. And I guess the reaction from the market so far is sort of confirming that for us. The other thing we're working on is setting up some data analysis of what our system collects as it moves through the environment. This 3D LiDAR data is quite rich and can be used to give you a lot of information about your operations. So we're using that to add more value for our end users while they move the aircraft, to give them real digital information about these movements, which is not something that a lot of movers have at the moment. And yeah, really we're focusing on getting our system out there for demonstrations or pilots or trials with any potential launch customers. So by mid-year, we expect to have, I think, 8 users. And we're looking to bring on a couple of more before the end of the year. So we're doing this in Europe and Asia, and Andrew, my co-founder, is currently traveling to Dallas, Texas, to do the MRO US, where we'll have a booth with Mainblades together, and we'll do some demonstrations in the US around that as well. So it's really just the key moment for us to get the technology in front of as many people as we can, to get feedback and people interested in using our system.
So both of you guys mentioned improvements to the way the software works and behaves and delivers value to the customers. Where would you guys see the biggest challenges at the moment for the respective products in terms of the technical side of things? Then touched upon the AI ML, which, if we talk about the future of automating operations and the future technologies, it might be a big one, right?
Actually, from a technical point of view, it's not that big of an issue. There's certain guidelines and progresses which are very familiar in the machine learning and artificial intelligence industry. The issue is that has to coincide with the goals set in aviation, right? So the acceptance, the willingness to accept a machine output qualifying something as a damage or qualifying something as a finding is something that is not straightforward, or at least is not clear. And I think the biggest challenge in terms of machine learning going forward will be to involve the regulators in such a way that also see value from this technology. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're actually involving the regulators, the FAA and the EASA, in telling us what they would like to see as an output of this technology, and developing that, co-developing that with them, such that it actually improves their lives as well. I think this summarizes this quite nicely, what we're doing now.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have much to add, because it's very similar. With the LiDAR data, like I said, it's super rich and detailed, and you can do a lot with that. But what you should do with it is, of course, based on what the end users are telling you adds value to their operations. And so right now we're really just going through a lot of different use cases that could be potentially interesting to implement, because I think, technology and feasibility wise, a lot of things are possible, but the real core question is, what is valuable, and is that scalable across the industry? And I think that's probably a thing that we both deal with every time our technology gets into some end users' hands. We have the discussion about what's possible, or what should be done next.
I actually have a question here from Alan. Can the Evitaro system provide warnings that the aircraft is being pushed beyond the tarmac into a grass patch? Alan, if you like, you can also just turn on your camera and join the conversation directly. You guys don't need to use the chat for this. Alex, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, thank you very much for chipping in with the question. Yes, short answer. We can do some approaches to understand if the aircraft will leave the tarmac and get into soft ground, which is one of these use cases. There's numerous things the technology can do, of course, or front landing gear oversteer, for example. Monitoring that oversteer angle and giving a warning ahead of time is another one. That's actually the second time in a week that the grass patch comment has come up, so it's relevant, very relevant at the moment. Thanks for the question.
Alan, does that answer your question? Do you want to follow up on it?
I think he's muted, but he's smiling. Looks positive.
Okay, cool. Guys, is there any questions from the audience? Any comments? Anything you would like to know or address?
I would like to ask if you hear me.
Yes, we do.
I'm looking at. I'm working as a flight instructor in a small airport for the general aviation. So I'm interested about the use. Can you give me an answer from both of you, from Evitaro and Mainblades? Is it applicable more for the general aviation, for the small area? Can you convince me? Let's say, okay, this tool is kind of useful. It can save your resources. Can let's say speed up your operations with the tugging, with the part 145 for the Piper Cheyenne or Turbo. So can we use the drone for that kind of a inspection, C section and all that, and wings? I mean, we have, the question is application of your solutions for general aviation. Can you give me the, let's say, hint about that?
Alex, you want to have a go?
Sure, I could start off. We actually are working already in general aviation, and have added numerous sort of business jets or general aviation jets or aircraft to our library. So short answer, yes, for movements. And we find also some of the data we collect while you're moving these aircraft can also then improve operational efficiency. Like, you know, in the general aviation, you may have a hangar packed with like 20 different aircraft, and the schedule says that this aircraft in the very back needs to come out next. So what we're asking is, how can we optimize the flow of the movement operations based on what we know from the schedule on one side and what we know from the real-time status of the hangar on the other? And, you know, I think that could be a very valuable addition to the operational side of the general aviation terminal. If you think that's interesting, but yeah, that's what we've seen so far. Dejan?
Yeah, Dalibor, thanks so much for your question. From my point of view, I'm not going to tell you fairy tales. The large savings in time due to drone inspections can be best achieved with larger aircraft. So narrow body and wide body even better, of course, especially parts that are difficult to reach, tail section, wing section, and everything above the waterline for the wide bodies. That makes absolute sense to use drones for. However, if it's your target to do inspections to obtain high quality images of your aircraft, it does actually provide a better input. You can provide consistent reporting, consistent data, and actually have a continuous monitoring of your asset on a data quality level. We actually have trained our drone. We have developed our drone based on a small DC-3, I think, from the World War II, and we've done lots of development tests on cars in 2020 when the hangars was close to us. So we can do very easily a small aircraft, but we would have to see if what the targets are that you want to achieve with this inspection. So if it's speed, it's not going to help that much because you can very quickly look at a small aircraft, but might even still be.
Yeah.
But data quality, definitely. So continuous stream of data. I'm not sure general aviation, usually for private jets, people like to see their aircraft, the status of the aircraft on a regular basis. So that's something definitely that can be supported with a drone on location.
Thank you, both of you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Perry, I saw you raised your hand digitally.
Yes, I did there. Thank you, Michael. Question is for Dejan, Air Canada here. We are, you know, I would have to agree with you. We are slow on the boat when it comes to technology and going from a manual mode into an AI mode. But where do you see? Is there a see the equivalency process? So the human eye versus the AI, and so when you do a walk around inspection, obviously the AI function, the drone function, there is. You know, there is the chance that could it miss something? That's the biggest hurdle that a lot of people have. The human eye is going to see it, but what happens if the AI, and it works both ways, but what happens if you're going to do a general visual inspection, let the drone do its inspection, and it actually misses something on the tail that was damaged? Is there a possibility of that ever happening, or do you have data on that? And my second question to that is, are you actually collecting data on how much time it saves doing a drone inspection versus the human inspection?
Two very fair questions, Perry. Thank you. Nice to meet you
Nice to meet you.
digitally still. First, the AI part. So there's an in-between step, right? You have a manual human inspection, then you have a full-fledged automated AI inspection. But in between, you can still do a drone inspection, a drone GVI, collect all the data, making sure you don't miss anything, you have full coverage, and have that data set of 300 or 600 pictures ready to review at that point in time, but also later. So technically speaking, you even have a better way of having your data, even if you would miss, because a human can also miss something. We all know that.
Correct.
But even if you miss something, you would have it back in your data and could be able to look it back up. That's an in-between step we have already reached now. We can do a full-fledged inspection and have the data ready, stored to be reviewed later. As for the algorithm part, that's a step, one slow step at a time. We currently have an algorithm which, as I said, we release a new version every month because that's the training cycle we're currently in. We add new data to it, and we see actually very quickly that it picks up on the findings that we wanted to. We can tune the parameters, hyperparameters, in such a way of the hyperparameters in such a way that it will actually look for the things that we wanted to. Can we give guarantees? I wouldn't be able to answer that question in that way. I think that's still a process. So we're now over-tuning all the findings. We're finding up to thousands of findings per inspections because we can actually monitor every rivet rash on an aircraft. Rivet rashes are generally something that MROs don't care too much about, unless if it's a specific location or if it's threshold. Now that is a very something, right? There's so much rush that it exceeds. That's something that is currently done very with our system. You can do it actively. We have a continuously monitor of how much there is, for example, and at what point aircraft surface should be repainted. So that's a step we are making. So we're adding intelligence into our product all the time. We're monitoring what the output is. We're validating that with what the normal inspection is and what the requirements are for customers, from regulators, and tuning that software, that algorithm, to go towards something that the industry is wanting. However, what that is for the AI part is still not very much clear. So most people say, "Yeah, well, I just want a fully automated aircraft inspection. I just want to click OK when it's done." But that's going to take some checking, right? The methodology we're having now is that you will check our high likelihood findings. You will check a couple of our where we're doubting about, so where the uncertainty is high, and based on that estimate, based on that sampling, we can actually give you an estimate of, okay, the software is now recognizing this amount of your damages. Do you want to clear that? But currently, it's a step of collecting data. Does that answer your first question a little bit?
Yes, it does, Dejan. And I think what most, at least in my industry, what we're interested in is the cost saving. Obviously, that's a big ticket item. We do have issues, though, with the mechanic association that we have. They may be worried about the fact that they're going to be losing personnel because an AI is going to take over their job, their function. But the way you kind of, or at least that I've been telling my superiors, is that it's a tool that assists the maintenance personnel, and I think that's the route you have to do. But we'd like to see some data collected on how do you save? I mean, Airbus industry, our contact with Airbus industry has given us an indication on how many man hours do we save by using the AI versus just the typical 3 or 4 people doing a general visual inspection. How many hours do we save on manpower doing the inspection with an AI? So I don't know if you guys collected data like that as well.
We do have some examples. So first, your first question or first comment is people are not going to lose jobs over this. As far as I know, aircraft mechanics, aircraft engineers are in a huge shortage. There's too much work and too little capacity. And the idea of Mainblades is actually providing these mechanics with a drone, with a solution to do an inspection quickly, but they will still have to be in charge of reviewing that inspection and clearing the aircraft. So if somebody's going to lose the job, it's going to be the cherry picker, right? But I don't even think the cherry picker is going to be out of the hangar. It's just going to be used a little bit less or less often. So we're really putting this into the hands of the mechanics who will be supervising these inspections and who will be ultimately responsible for the results of these inspections. As to the time efficiencies which you can achieve, I can give you a couple of examples. We've run a A330-200 inspection in 2 hours, so that's a wide body. We've run a 757 inspection in under 45 minutes. That's a technically narrow body. And the time savings for that, I mean, it really depends. So that's a full body scan, goes back from 15 to 20 hours to 1 or 2. More concrete use case is the wing inspections. For the 787, we see in general that this is a regular inspection for most airlines that are having these paint issues. It's an A-check, so every 8 weeks there's an inspection, and we see that currently it's a 2 to 4 hour assessment. So that is gathering the data, labeling, measuring, whatnot, making the report. We see that with our drones we can do it in about 20 to 25 minutes. So that's 2 to 4 hours to 25 minutes for the wing inspection, with a full map of where the tape is, the high-speed tape is where the paint is. That is a time savings you can achieve apart from having a higher resolution, higher quality report.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dejan.
You're welcome, Perry.
Great, thanks. I see another question coming along from Ellen here, touching a little bit on the airport and airspace and the regulatory side of things here. Maybe Alex can also share a little bit in a bit what that looks like for them. But he's asking, is it legal to fly the drone in airport airspace, including the hangar?
It really depends on your local aviation authority, but in general, flying indoors with the door closed is flying a drone in your living room. So if your living room is not part of the airspace, then your hangar is also not part of the airspace. I have to say there are a certain number of countries that are even a bit more careful than that. So they would want to have their aviation authority at least hear about that. But in general, that's fine. Actually, flying outdoor is also not illegal. Both in the US as in Europe, there have been new implementations of laws that allow outdoor operations on airports. And we have clearance, we have operational authorization to fly these kind of inspections on European airports. We're currently in the process of, I think that's the next slide also, of implementing this at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. And there are several, I think, motions in the US of people flying these kind of operations. It's a matter of maturity of the drone industry actually, because it's been growing quickly, and currently people are starting to say, okay, there should be a place for drones on an airport. This is what it should be looking like. This is the safety precautions you have to take. But far from it being illegal. If it's illegal, nobody's going to fly at an airport, right? It's going to get you in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Alex, what are some of the challenges on this topic that you guys are working towards?
Yeah, our side of regulatory is less intense, as the tool is used separate of aircraft power. We don't require any pre-clearances, so a maintenance company can take our tool and implement it relatively quickly. I did see a few questions as well as like bad weather affecting the LiDAR's performance. As far as we have seen, this is not the case. Hamburg is sort of a dark, rainy, foggy place, and we've had a lot of development days where we, have tested this theory with bad weather. So in our scenario, the aircraft moving the speed it's moving with the environment it's in, we don't see any big issues. But yeah, that's a little bit more about our side of the implementation. yeah, especially once you get with our sensor installed on the tug itself, then it's even more straightforward to use it in your operations, even on the air side of things. So which we're working to implement with a couple of different airports, just going through that process now. But we have to this point not seen any major regulatory blockades for us.
Okay. So what's coming up in the period ahead for you guys? What can we expect from Evitaro in the coming months?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we're currently busy launching some new customers. So you'll probably start to see, if you follow us on LinkedIn, some of our new announcements of users in Europe and Asia and North America. Along that point, we'll also be growing our team. So we'll be posting, open positions on LinkedIn as well. Do a little bit of self-marketing that they should probably check out our LinkedIn page if you'd like to learn more. And yeah, we're working towards also becoming, thought leaders for movement of aircraft and how to do that safely and efficiently, with digital information and using technology in your operations. So we're really looking to become the leader in this space and are looking for partners to help us get there. So we're very much looking forward to not only at the MRO US, but in general, any having conversations with any interested parties about using our technology to help move aircraft.
Fantastic. Sounds very promising.
Yes.
Dan, what's up with Mainblades in the period ahead? What can we expect?
Also exciting times, I think, ahead. I think I've mentioned our collaboration with KLM a couple of times already, that we're actively working with them and very intensively. We're about to kick off a project with Lufthansa Technik in the Philippines, their wide body station, in 2 weeks' time, and finally get a drone there as well after all these COVID restrictions. So that's a very exciting time. We're as Alex said, it's going global. We're working on making regular inspections outdoor at Schiphol possible. So that's what the small story I just mentioned. We have the approval to fly outdoor. It still has to be coordinated with airport authority, with the ATC, local ATC, and we're actually in the process of getting that done and being able to provide regular outdoor inspections on Amsterdam Airport. And last but not least, also we finally, after a period of 1.5 years of relative steadiness, are growing our team again. So we have people from a couple of technical backgrounds coming in, but more importantly, we're actually scaling up on the sales, marketing side, and the operational support, right? Because we're putting drones now in our customers' hands. They're using it, and we want to make sure that once a drone is at a location, that it's actually used for what it's supposed to be used, and that customers are perfectly happy with using it. And anything that we can get as feedback from them to improve our product, we're happy to do so. So mostly growing our team on the operational / commercialization side.
I see a question here from Young asking if the drones are tethered.
Happy that question came up, because I keep hearing that question more and more often, and it's quite worrying. There's a good amount of people that think that a tethered drone is going to provide you with more safety, prevent flyaways. That is actually not true. It also does not make sure that your drone is actually, it doesn't have to abide to the regulations for outdoor flight. Our drone is not tethered. Our drone is flying loose. We do have multiple security measures to make sure it is contained within its operational space. So within the vicinity of an aircraft, GPS based, LiDAR based, multiple communication light based. And that is actually, in fact, a much safer operation than having a cable running on your drone and having to fly it around the wings, tails, and whatever structures which can damage your aircraft or impede your inspection capabilities. I would really do an appeal to the industry leaders who are looking at tethered solutions to not do that. It is possible technically. It's not a difficult solution. There are off the market solutions that you can buy and add to your drone, but it is not something that is progressive in terms of achieving that efficiency that drones have the potential to provide.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see another question coming along here from Alan. Can the drone define the station NOS, exact location tracking on the aircraft?
if we have the 2D data of the aircraft, and we have for a certain amount of models, and if we have a good 3D model of the aircraft, then we can actually pinpoint each picture and each finding in that picture to a station and stringer, so that an engineer can actually look it up in the reporting interface. And if he needs an additional check or an actual feel, he can actually know exactly where to go. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Are there any additional questions? Now is the time, guys. If not, then let me continue with this question. To both of you, actually, what needs to happen for the industry to pick up these types of technologies that we've been hearing here about today quicker and faster? And how can the ecosystem work together to make that happen?
I'd like to pitch in on that one. I've been in the aviation now for a couple of years, 4 or 5 years already. And apart from it currently not being a pandemic situation in the world, I think that the aviation sector as a whole is quite a coherent world. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody's willing to help everybody out. Everybody's willing to grab an opportunity and realize efficiency benefits, realize new cool technologies. So I don't think an awful lot has to happen. The mindset is there. There's an open mindset toward technology improvements. There's even an open mindset towards certifying new solutions. Speed is always an issue, but I'm very doubtful to now say that that's everywhere the case. I think if you can find the right partners and they can all contribute with what the vision is, what the goal is of a technology such as a drone inspection, you do get progress and you do move in the right direction. Can it go faster? Always. Can we achieve more together? Always. But I think in general, I'm quite happy in the last couple of months.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think the one thing that holds us back as an industry for technology startups in aviation operations is just quite frankly that the market is just starting to exist. So like, you have your pain points, and we have our technology, and we're trying to find how that market is coming to be. And that will, I think, on the startup side, actually slow us down if we don't have the validated market proof yet, or it's not a thriving market like some other startup industries are. That it actually puts a little bit of extra weight on our side. So I'm hopeful though that as the industry starts to reopen and technology is being used more often, that the mindset that Dejan just described of everyone being very helpful and connected and willing to try new technology is reflected then in our user growth, which then in turn, creates the ecosystem for startups to have more resources and to be more successful.
Fantastic. I just noticed we have another question coming in here from John. I think it's a relevant question for both of you. Can the LiDAR, or is the LiDAR able on the ramp to look through fog or heavy rainfall?
It depends. Yeah, I'd say it depends on your LiDAR and what the actual weather condition is. And then on top of that, what you're really looking to see. If it's a very small object without with additional noises, then maybe not so possible. But I think it really depends on the use case there. Did you have something more specific in mind, maybe? Or Dejan, anything to add?
No, I think generally the LiDAR is a good tool to be used for, to a certain extent, all weather purposes. That's why it's being chosen as a localization device for vehicles, for drones, for tools like Alex's. But everything comes, of course, with a certain degree of until this point. So if it's really a catastrophic situation of heavy rain, heavy fog, you will not probably be good. But in general, one of the benefits of the LiDAR as a sensor is it can withstand different weather conditions.
Yeah.
As opposed to cameras, yeah.
Yeah, Elon Musk is famously against LiDAR, probably for cost, and also though for this technical reason And the real difference here is like on a highway, if it's raining and you have all that mist being kicked up from the tires, that's a nightmare for a sensor. It makes so much noise. In an airport environment or moving aircraft, it's not as high speed. It's not as much high stakes. You don't need to be looking 200 meters off in the distance. So at a range of 30 meters in heavy rain, moving slowly with an aircraft, we haven't seen any issues. So it really depends on that's why I'm saying on your use case. And LiDAR does do good work in dark, foggy conditions so far.
Exactly.
Thank you. Perry, I see your hand is raised. Is it still raised or raised again?
Sorry. It was raised there. So question then to Dejan here concerning the inspection process and the location of it. First of all, one question is, where do you stand with the Canadian regulators, the MOT, insofar as outdoor inspections? And I know from being a drone pilot myself that there are no laws indoors. So obviously the hangar space, having an aircraft in a hangar, that takes some time, and also cost involved in having an aircraft in a hangar. I mean, to do the inspection outdoors would be great, but then you're factoring in things like weather. So you're limited on some types of weather. I'm sure the drone does have kind of limitations on that. But where do you primarily see the Ministry of Transport going with this? Will they allow us approval to do a drone inspection outdoors? They don't care about indoors, but primarily outdoors. And does it have to be in an area? So if we had a lightning strike on an aircraft and it's at the gate, we can't do the inspection at the gate. We're going to have to bring that that aircraft away. But can we actually do something where it's, hey, let's go up to the tail section. Maybe that's where the lightning strike was. I don't know. Where do you guys stand on that?
Good questions, very practical questions. I think I heard three of them. First of all, Canadian Aviation Authority, no relation until yet. So I'd be more than happy if you can connect me. But usually I go around looking at where is an airline that is looking into this, and can we make a joint force to get the regulator moving? I think that's a first position to work from. Second question was weather conditions, right? We could do weatherproofness, rainfall, wind, Beaufort up to 6, so that's about 18 knots, I think.
Yeah.
15, 18 knots. So that's already quite something, because if it's more than that, you're not going out there with a cherry picker as well, right?
Right.
So up to the same degree that is currently possible in aviation maintenance or aviation inspections. Third question, will they allow us to fly outdoor? I actually think they will. There's not a lot of reason to not do it. It's just everybody's scared to be the first a little bit. And I think there have been enough proofs now, both in Europe as in the US, of drones flying some inspections at an airport environment, be it for an aircraft inspection next to a hangar or at a parking location, be it for an landing runway inspection or scaring away of birds. But autonomous vehicles or unmanned vehicles, drones are actually finding a way into the airspace at an airport. It's just a matter of time until the regulators for these kind of airspaces are set on what needs to be achieved, what needs to be proven in terms of safety to have these drones flying around. And I think we're closer than ever to them. There has been a change of law in Europe, EASA based, that does allow drone operations on airports, implementation pending. A similar approach for the FAA. And what I hear from other aviation authorities in the world, that they do generally look at, okay, what is out there already? Who has already done the legwork? Who has already done the paperwork, assessments, mitigations? Because then it's, of course, a lot easier to implement it in your own home base. But it requires a very active mindset. And that's why we also, when customer asks us, hey, can we buy this? Can you implement it here? Usually the answer is no. We need to talk to you. We need to talk to your regulator. We need to have a joint team of people moving this forward, and that's what we're trying to do. So form partnership to get this moving, and it does require some effort. But that ties in with the previous answer that I had. Aviation industry is quite helpful and willing to go forward. The speed is only a limiting factor, but it's going as fast as it can, I think.
Thank you, Dejan. You know, the Ministry of Transport here in Canada, it's a beast in itself, trying to get things done with them. You know, their biggest concern is if that drone ever flies away, will you be able to get that on the ground? And in most cases, the drone will be able to go on the ground. You just hit return to home or whatever the button is on that drone. And but their concern is if we lose control of that drone, will it fly across an active runway, let's say? And you know, it's a flyaway, and so who knows? I think that's the biggest hurdle that we have to show them.
I don't think the Transport Ministry of Canada is any different than the other beasts of transport ministries, from what I hear. A funny question to them is always, have they ever done just a little bit of research of how much flyaways there are with the concurrent drones, with the modern drones? It's very, very minimal. 10 years ago, sure, every clown would build a drone and they would go bananas all the time. Currently, with today's technology in the drones, I haven't heard flyaways for a long, long time in all kinds of situations.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
All right. We are getting close towards the end. I think we have time for one more question from Young here. What is the next phase for Evitaro?
Yeah, so, well, phase-wise, basically getting ourselves to having like 10, 15 systems in the field this year. You know, bringing our product technology to second revision release of our product. So right now out there is the first release, many versions iterated of the first release, and we're looking to make a major step with the second release of the system. And yeah, along with getting some more financing in order, growing the team, you know, those are the major goals of Evitaro. So we're really trying to transition ourselves from a startup to an operational company offering very innovative products to your industry, to our industry. And yeah, what's next for us directly is exactly what Mike just put on the screen here. Is we'll be with Mainblades together in Dallas, Texas. You'll get to meet Andrew, and I don't know, Dejan, are you going yourself to Dallas?
Yeah, I'm going over to Dallas to see what it's up like there.
Yep. So you meet Dejan and my co-founder Andrew, if you're so fortunate to be there at the MRO Americas.
I would actually like to give that question from Young also to Mainblades. So what's the next, let's say, bigger phase for Mainblades in this transition?
I think I already mentioned it. We're operationalizing systems now, so we're actually implementing them with customers, with partners, getting them into the hand of the users, getting feedback of that, and actually making sure that now that we have the fundamental part of the technology ready, to actually look for those tiny bits and pieces of customization of how to make this very valuable for them. That's what we're working on now.
Thanks. And as Alex mentioned, we would love to show it to you guys in Dallas. If you or someone from the team is around, we'd be more than happy to meet you guys, answer more questions, and show it to you firsthand. So let us know if you or your team is going to be around. We'd be happy to catch up. Our booth is the number 701. We'll be present there, both of our hardware as well. Unless there's no final comments or questions or remarks, we would want to thank you guys for being here today, for taking the time. We had lots of good quality questions. Thanks for that also. I think we can leave it at that then today.
Yes. Thanks, Mike, for moderating, and thanks everybody for the input. Hope to see you and talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks
very much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.